It's Friday, it's 1900 hours BST, and it's time for our SONGUN007 and British Group for the Study of the Juche idea in KFA UK live stream. And welcome to everybody who's just joined. Good evening from London. And good evening from me, Dr. Dermot Hudson, and good evening from the British Group for the Study of the Juche idea and from the Korean Friendship Association of the UK. Now, originally, I wasn't going to do a live stream tonight. I was probably going to do it next week or the week after. But the situation on the Korean Peninsula since last week has become very tense. So I'm having this live stream to talk about the situation on the Korean Peninsula. I'm also going to say a little bit about the fake news stories that are circulating about DPRK, KPA troops being sent to Ukraine. This is a false story. I think it's important that we nail it as such. So, the DPRK and the Korean Peninsula are finally back in the news. Many are wondering if there will be a war on the Korean Peninsula. Indeed, a tense situation has been created by the ROK, Republic of Korea, that's South Korea, puppets drone intrusion into the DPRK last week. It is relevant here to refer to the crucial statement the DPRK Foreign Ministry that was issued on the 11th of October, which said as follows, and I'm going to quote it verbatim. The ROK is crossing the red line in its provocation against the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The most hostile and malicious rogue state, the ROK, committed such a grave political and military provocation as infiltrating drones into Pyongyang, the capital city of the DPRK. Drone infiltrations were conducted by the ROK on October 3rd and October the 9th. They were followed by perpetration of such a hideous crime as scattering a huge number of anti-DPRK smear leaflets over the central part of Pyongyang through a midnight drone infiltration on October 10. Smear leaflets run through with inflammatory rumours and rubbish, tarnishing the national sovereignty and dignity of the DPRK and malignantly hurting its socialist system, were scattered in the central part of the capital city. Not content with scattering leaflets along the border by balloons, the ROK even infiltrated into the sky of the DPRK's capital such drones which can be regarded as military attack means. The case is a serious provocation that can be neither overlooked nor pardoned. Its provocation beyond the limit line constitutes an open infringement on the sacred national sovereignty of the DPRK and security of the DPRK, and a wanton violation of the international law and a grave military attack for which the ROK must pay a dear price. The ROK should neither justify the recent case in a trite way, nor think of shirking its responsibility by making far-fetched assertions again. The case is a typical instance that vividly portrays the national position of the ROK, belonging to the most shameless, childish and vulgar category in the world and the meanness of its clans. It also evidently shows that the danger of armed conflict is created on the Korean Peninsula due to the reckless and adventuristic acts of the ROK. The international community should strongly denounce the bravado of the ROK, which is steadily escalating the danger of military conflict in the region, while unhesitantly committing provocations hard to sustain their aftermath and unanimously call for thoroughly deterring them. International law does not allow free flight of foreign aircraft or flying objects in the territorial airspace of a country, as well as harmless flight, quote unquote. The recent intrusion into the airspace is a grave crime encroaching upon the sovereignty of the DPRK and a clear target of the exercise of the right to self-defense. The ROK chose self-destruction and is hastening its doom. In the world, there is no country which would not react to the violation of its airspace and the drones of a hostile country flying over its capital. We regard the recent provocation of the ROK as a series of political and military provocation that deserves retaliation according to the right of self-defense without any further explanation and necessity. The recent adventurous provocation of the Yemenis urgently requires our army to promptly judge what kind of action measures should be taken to discharge its sovereignty defending mission granted by the DPRK Constitution and make a decision on launching the relevant retaliatory action. The Ministry of National Defence, the General Staff and the Army at all levels of the DPRK set about preparations to cope with different occasions of the developing situation. First of all, the offensive means of the DPRK to be involved in getting military structures near the southern border and in the ROK collapsed will get ready to carry out their activities promptly at any moment. The stand expressed by our head of state some days ago that the DPRK has no intention to attack the ROK does not mean that we are not ready to attack the ROK, with the possibility of using all means of attack and readiness to be seriously warned the ROK as an ultimatum again to the last. The ROK should immediately stop irresponsible and dangerous provocation that may cause an armed conflict and lead to a war between the two sides. If the ROK commits such a provocation as infiltrating a drone into the airspace of the DPRK once again, the DPRK will launch an action immediately without warning. Taking this opportunity, we make it clear once again that the source and cause of all these disasters making world people uneasy are in the ROK, which has scattered political agitation scum into our inviolable territory despite our repeated warnings. The ROK, which wantonly violated the inviolable sovereignty of the DPRK, will face a horrible situation if it continues provocation, not bearing in mind this last warning of the DPRK. The trigger safety device is now off. Time for our attack is not decided by us. We will watch everything in full preparedness. Criminals should no longer gamble at risk for the lives of their people. And that's the end of the statement. And for people who've just joined, I've just been reading from the crucial statement of the DPRK Foreign Ministry that was issued on October 11th. The drone intrusion was a very clear violation of the DPRK's national sovereignty. Some people might say, ooh, but it was only leaflets. But a drone can be used to spread COVID-19, or it can use other biological weapons against the DPRK. It could also be used for terrorism and assassination. In the past, in 2012, South Korea sent terrorists into the DPRK to try and blow up statues. In 2017, the US and South Korea tried to assassinate respected Marshal Kim Jong-un. A vile attempts on the supreme leadership of the DPRK. The recent drone intrusion was part of a wider campaign of destabilization and regime change operations by the ROK and the US imperialists standing behind them. Comrade Kim Yo-jong, Vice Department Director of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea, said on the 12th of October, and I quote, "We have no concern about who is the main force of provoking the recent drone incidents and its performance. We only look squarely at the fact that whatever the military gangsters and an organization of human scum who defected from the DPRK, they are the fellows of the shameless ROK. As we repeat our clear stand, we will take strong corresponding retaliatory action in disregard of ingredient in case drones carrying anti-DPRK political motivation rubbish from the ROK across the border infiltrate again into the territorial sky of the DPRK. This is the exercise of the sovereign state's right to self-defense that cannot be considered. Those who are not taking any proper stand to check the escalation of tension and armed conflict, but making a bluff and lame excuse with reckless courage, even though they made Seoul municipality and the whole of the ROK a target and put their people on the kitchen board, will certainly only hear the people's voices of criticism. They will be well advised not to worry about the immediate price for repeated provocation and cope with it. Even though the ROK military is racking its brain to evade the responsibility for their infringement upon the sovereignty of the DPRK with incoherent impudence and abnormal sophism, they will certainly pay a dear price for violently infringing upon the inviolable sovereignty of our state and doing a serious harm to its security anyway. I hope that the people would judge whether the strong, brave, reckless, and bold attitude of the ROK military, which jumps from the frying pan into the fire, will defend the genuine safety of the ROK. As I reaffirm, once again, as clarified by the DPRK Foreign Ministry, our attack time for destroying Seoul and the military force of the ROK is not clarified in our military action plan. The time is not set by us. However, the moment that a drone is discovered in the sky over our capital city, once again, will certainly lead to a horrible disaster. Personally, I wish that such a thing will not happen. And that's the end of the quotation of the statement by Comrade Kim Yo-jong, Vice Department Director of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea. Marshal Kim Jong-un earlier this week called a meeting of DPRK National Defense officials, like the Minister of National Defense, the Chief of General Staff of the Korean People's Army, the General Reconnaissance Bureau, and the Ministry of State Security. This was to finalize the arrangements for operations against South Korea in the case of a war. And he has also visited the Army Corps, that is the frontline Army Corps of the Korean People's Army. In the DPRK, 1.4 million youths have applied to rejoin or join the Korean People's Army. The Korean Central News Agency stated, and I quote, "If a war breaks out, the ROK will be wiped off the map. As it wants a war, we are willing to put an end to its existence. The passionate young people are determined to turn out in a sacred war of destroying the enemy with the arms of the revolution." End of quotation from KCNA. The DPRK also took the step on the 15th of October of completely cutting the road and rail links between the DPRK and the Puppet South. This is a just measure by the DPRK to secure its southern border and prevent colonization or annexation by South Korea or regime change. All this must be seen within the context of the DPRK's new policy towards South Korea that was finalized in December last year. The DPRK has abandoned the goal of Korean reunification and also the concept of one country, two systems. South Korea is now defined as a hostile state and number one enemy of the DPRK. The South Korean puppets have never given up on the idea of overthrowing the socialist system in the DPRK, basically annexing and colonizing the DPRK, similar to what was done to the old German Democratic Republic in 1989. In my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, past inter-Korean projects such as the Kaesong Industrial Park and the Mount Kumgang tourist region were simply a conspiracy to try and spread the corrupt capitalist system into the DPRK. And the DPRK is 100 times and 1,000 times better off without them. Basically, the South Korean puppet regime is a class enemy of the people of the DPRK. As said, the DPRK is now defining South Korea as the principal enemy. South Korea is a capitalist hellscape. It has the longest working hours in the world. They recently upped the working day to 20 hours, and if people don't believe me, they can check it out. It's all on Google, etc. South Korea has the highest suicide rate in the world. Its people live in slums. South Korean culture is totally decadent and degenerate. It's rubbish. It is a copy of the US and Japan. South Korea is also a fascist dictatorship where communists are jailed and even executed. The DPRK is the far eastern outpost of socialism, the Far Eastern fortress of the socialist camp, which proudly flies the red flag. The DPRK has an advanced socialist system which guarantees free housing, free healthcare, free education, low-cost food, low-cost public transport, and old age pensions at 60 for men and 55 for women. DPRK has the right to take any measures whatsoever to defend its socialist system. We must stand by people's career and we must defend it with no ifs or buts and be ready to support it if a war breaks out. And I would also like to briefly refer to the fake news stories that the DPRK is sending troops to fight in the Ukraine, and a lot of people are referring to this. And as usual, Zelensky is presenting himself as the victim. You know, poor little me, and all this kind of thing. In fact, the story has been denied both by the DPRK and Russia. On the 10th of October, the Russian government spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, stated, "This looks like another hoax." On the 8th of November 2022, 2 years ago, the Vice Director for Military Foreign Affairs of the Ministry of National Defence of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea said, and I quote, "We once again make it clear we have never had arms dealing with Russia and that we have no plan to do so in the future," end of quote. I would add that this is a rumour spread by both South Korea and Ukraine, which have a couple of things in common. They both are puppets of imperialism. They're both really artificial entities, or certainly South Korea is. And of course, Ukraine was really the old Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. And they're both used as proxies by US imperialism. So, they've cooperated in inventing stories about the DPRK. The Ukrainian fascist regime, the Banderite regime, is desperate to paint itself as a victim, and saying that it not only has to fight the Russian Federation, but the DPRK as well. And this is done in order to get more money from Western governments, more aid, more taxpayers' money from Britain, from the US, from Germany, from various EU states. And it is a fact that if KPA troops were really fighting in the Ukraine, by now Kiev would have fallen, it would have been liberated, and Zelensky himself would be hanging upside down from a flagpole, just like Mussolini. And I would also point out, they're talking about 10,000 KPA troops. I think it'd be impossible to move that number of troops without it being detected. And in fact, the DPRK has never, at any point in its history, sent that number of troops abroad. They've only sent very limited numbers of troops, and apart from Vietnam and Egypt, really in most cases they just sent small numbers of military advisors or technicians or special forces to different countries. They've never sent 10,000 troops anywhere. It's just ridiculous. Of course, if like I said, if they did fight in the Ukraine, I think the Ukrainian regime would fall very, very quickly. People some people on social media have accused me of being pro-Russian. I'm not pro-Russian. I mean, I don't believe that the Russian Federation is a socialist country. It is a capitalist state, however, it is anti-fascist and anti-imperialist, and this war in Ukraine has been provoked by the US and NATO. I mean, I support the anti-fascist people's republics of Donetsk and Luhansk, and my political position on Russia is, I would say, the nearest Russian organizations to my views are the All-Union Communist Party of Bolsheviks, Nina Andreeva, and the Russian Communist Workers' Party, both of which are actually anti-Putin, but critically support the special military operation of the Russian Federation. Anyway, not wishing to sort of talk a lot about Russia, because it's not the point of this live stream. I just mention a few things before I conclude and we go over to questions. I would also like to mention that respected Marshal Kim Jong-un wrote a special article for Rudin and Simon for the anniversary, the 79th anniversary of the foundation of the Workers' Party of Korea. It was titled, "Officials Should Become Communist Revolutionaries Who Are Possessed of the Party's Original Ideas and Spirit as Their Mental Qualities." And in this work, there's quite a lot of things, but I noticed that Marshal Kim Jong-un made reference to revisionism, and he is the only leader of a present-day socialist country to mention revisionism. So truly, the Workers' Party of Korea is a great anti-revisionist party, whatever some people may say. And just like to announce, I mean, it hasn't, the printed copy hasn't come from lulu.com, but I've just published another new book this year called The Socialist Fortress of Juche, about the DPRK's defence policy and its line of self-reliant defence. I'm hoping, as I say, to get the print copy soon, and I'll make a video about the book, or perhaps talk about it on a live stream. I've got different plans for new books. I want to write a book about the DPRK's struggle against modern revisionism. I've also got a plan to write about the Dirty Tricks campaign against the Korean Friendship Association. This will be like another version of the Great Conspiracy Against People's Korea, but it will instead of focusing on the dirty tricks against the DPRK, will focus on the dirty tricks against KFA. So anyway, just before I stop speaking and move to the questions, again would like to emphasize, the most important thing is to get people to our events and meetings, because this is how you defend people's career with no ifs or buts, by coming to meetings and events. We have a lot of online events. It's not just real life events. So you don't need to spend money on traveling. You can join online events, but it's so important because this makes us far more effective, and it means we can do the work of defending people's career with no ifs or buts, and spreading the Juche idea far more efficiently than in the past. And so we appeal to people, don't mess around on Discord or hang about on Telegram. come to our meetings. Anyway, I've said what I wanted to say. I'll stop there, and I'll go to the chat now and pick up on the questions and say hello to people. And I see we've got we've got quite a few people, and of course, many more people will actually watch this on the sort of playback or recording. Right, let's look at the questions. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Hello to everyone. I agree with the comments from our friend Ideology Explained. And I must read the Songun Times as well, that I believe he's produced. Well, I mean, drones are quite serious. I mean, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, or actually a bit longer ago, that someone for a joke decided to fly some drones near Gatwick Airport, which of course is a London airport. It's like the second London airport after Heathrow. And because someone was flying drones and they didn't know people didn't know who was doing it or why, they had to suspend all the flights from Gatwick Airport, causing chaos. That is an illustration of drones. Right, so we do have some questions. How has women's rights improved in the DPRK? Well, I think I've done a live stream on that before, and maybe a video. They've improved in all sorts of ways. The DPRK, or in fact, before the DPRK was founded, when it was still the Provisional People's Committee of North Korea, actually passed the law on sexual equality on the 30th of July 1946, which made women equal with men, which gave them the right to vote, but also more significantly, the right to equal pay for equal work. It abolished prostitution and gave women legal rights. Since then, the DPRK's passed other legislation on women's rights, such as in 2010. They've also increased maternity leave. Originally, women in the DPRK got 77 days of paid maternity leave. That went up to 150 in the 1980s, and it is now about 200 days paid maternity leave. Women's rights, or their right to work, their right to participate in society, is underpinned in the DPRK by a massive network of free nurseries, creches, and kindergartens. They even have 24-hour nurseries in the DPRK. It's quite amazing, and all this is all free of charge. I've been to a kindergarten in the DPRK several times. They are amazing places. It's not like the childcare in the UK, which is private and which is usually very expensive and often consists of just someone using a converted domestic house. It's the kindergarten I saw, the Changwon kindergarten, was an 8-story building, and even had a model train in it and a paddling pool in it. It was quite amazing. And another measure that was taken for women in the DPRK is that if a woman has 3 or more children of school age, then she may work for 6 hours but receive pay for 8 hours. Yeah, sorry I made the mistake. It is indeed 21.5 hours working day in South Korea. I know there's people out there, there's reactionaries and cynics who say, "Oh, it's not true," but it is, and you can look it up. Yes, I mean, I agree with the statement from urban educators. Yes, I mean that's an interesting issue that's being raised. The South Korean birth rate is declining and it's getting lower all the time. And this is because South Korea is such an awful place to live. It's very long working hours, very poor housing conditions. People simply can't afford to have children in South Korea, and even if they do, they're working too hard to be able to look after children. Right. How can non-UK citizens join the online meetings? Well, it's very simple. Just fill in one of our registration forms and we send you the link when we have the meeting. It's as simple as that. Already, people from other KFA branches, like in Germany and Spain, participate in the online meetings, and so do friends from all over the world. So it's simple. Yes, hello. Yes, I agree. In the DPRK, there there is single-hearted unity, and that's what the imperialists uh, fear the most. Just scrolling down. I hope I don't miss anyone's question because that's happened a couple of times. Is NK News considered as Western mass media? Well, they would like to be Western mass media. I mean, the role of NK News, it's basically uh, something that's been set up by the CIA. However, they tried to deny it, and I think the British government had a hand in it. The British Foreign Office and MI6, as well as the South Korean regime. Of course, it operates uh, out of South Korea. Its basic function is to pose as an independent news agency, which it's not. And by the way, I mean it actually gets funding from the U.S. State Department and Department of Defense. Basically, it feeds uh, fake news stories into the mass media so they can quote it as if it was an authoritative source, which it's not. You know, they know very little about the DPRK. Right, okay. Question from Urban Educator. I don't know about the US campaign against China, but they have a campaign against the DPRK, and they also have separate funds from that. You know, there's also funding for an anti-DPRK campaign, and I believe that is about $1 billion for, you know, for anti-DPRK propaganda, and that amount has increased. Right. Any more questions? It's a little bit of a quiet quiet night here. Yeah, I mean, NK News is a very vile anti-DPRK propaganda organ, and I was going to try and avoid mentioning them tonight, but you know, it seems that the audience have mentioned the subject. Yeah, I mean, you know, they're full of anti-DPRK stories. They try to create fake talking points about the DPRK. Right, okay, a good question from urban educators. Yes, the free revolutions are very, very important. The DPRK's general line for socialist construction is called the free revolutions, and these are the ideological revolution, the technical revolution, and the cultural revolution. And it was President Kim Il Sung's idea that after the socialist revolution, you actually continue the revolution. The Juche theory sees revolution as being a continuous process that doesn't stop. So in the DPRK, you had the anti-imperialist, anti-feudal democratic revolution in the 1940s, and then the socialist revolution in the 50s. But they are still continuing with the free revolutions, basically to wipe out in all fields the legacy of the old society. So you've got the ideological revolution, which aims to liquidate capitalist and feudal and other backward ideologies and to revolutionize people. You've got the technical revolution, and that is basically to advance science and technology to increase labor productivity and to fully mechanize agriculture and also free women from the burden of household chores. And then the cultural revolution is basically about educating people and making sure that people have a high level of culture, you know, that they're able to build socialism and communism by having high cultural attributes. So the DPRK, in carrying out the cultural revolution, carries, you know, puts a lot of emphasis on education. Also, the DPRK defined the ideological revolution as the most important of the free revolution. It is the revolution that has to be carried out ahead of the others. You know, so it is the ideological revolution comes first. So, you know, and that's also what made the DPRK very different to the former socialist countries in Eastern Europe and the USSR. I hope that answers your question. Right, okay. Right. Just pick up the rest of the questions. How would the DPRK likely retaliate against the South Korean puppets after the attacks? Well, it's not really for me to say. It's the DPRK's prerogative to retaliate and to retaliate in the way they decide. I would assume that they would carry out limited surgical strikes against South Korean military bases. And I think one precedent you have was the Yongpyong Island battle in November 2010. And this was when South Korea shelled some some islands belonging to the DPRK and actually shelled farmhouses. Luckily, no one was in at the time. People were out at work, and this was in spite of many warnings given by the DPRK. So it was the last straw. So the DPRK retaliated with artillery fire and short-range missiles, causing a lot of damage on the South Korean Yongpyong Island. And some South Korean Marines and civilians were killed. So that is a possible precedent of what could happen, but it's not easy, easy to predict what could happen. Do you have any videos about religious freedom in the DPRK? Well, I've never made a one on the subject. I think some of the other YouTube channels might have a video about religion in the DPRK. All I can do is relate my own personal experience. I'm, of course, an atheist. I was someone, brought up as a Christian, actually brought up uh, in the High Anglican tradition. But anyway, I became an atheist when I was 11 years old. And a friend of mine is a Catholic. And when I went to the DPRK, he was quite worried about the Catholics in the DPRK. So I told my guides about this, and they took me to the Catholic Church on the eastern side of Pyongyang, where I saw a Catholic church service going on and women wearing veils. And in fact, in the DPRK, you've got a Catholic church, you've got a Protestant church, which is larger than the Catholic Church. You've also got a Russian Orthodox church as well. You've got Buddhist temples. I've been to the Buddhist temple at Mount Moihung, and they've got a monk there. And I can say, and also must quickly mention, there's also Chondoism in the DPRK, which is a native Korean religion, and I think only has followers on the Korean peninsula, nowhere else in the world. So you've got three different religions in the DPRK: Christianity, Chondoism, and Buddhism. So religious freedom is fully guaranteed. Right. Why are anti-communist revolutions called counter-revolutions? Well, because that's what they are. They are counter-revolutions. they are to reverse the successful revolution by the communists. So they are a counter revolution. It was the mainstream media who falsified the events that occurred at the end of the 1980s, calling some of these events revolutions when they were in fact counter-revolutions. And in fact, there was all sorts of rubbish at the time, like the hardline opposition within the Communist Party of the Soviet Union were actually, but called by the BBC, were actually called conservatives. It's really turning black into white, really. These, is a counter revolution. Well, that's an interesting question about the Squid Game, because I actually did make a video about that about 2 years ago. And I think the Squid Game basically shows the reality of South Korean capitalist society. It's a place where people are desperately poor. There's a handful of millionaires, and people compete to survive. I think it was a realistic portrayal of South Korean society. I think which is actually very, very rare. When was the KFA founded, to be exact? Well, the answer is very simple. It was founded on the 13th of November 2000 in Spain. That's when it was founded. In KFA UK was founded in March 2001. Well, that's an interesting one question about the badges, and that is something I've never asked about, and it's never been explained to me. Uh, all I can say is that years ago, one of my first visits to the DPRK, someone said to me, "We wear the badge with the portrait of President Kim Il Sung because without President Kim Il Sung, there would be no Korea." I mean, I think most people wear a badge with both leaders together. And only very recently did a badge with respected Marshal Kim Jong-un appear. And in fact, when I was in the DPRK in April this year, I can honestly say that I did not see anyone wearing it. Yes, I agree with the statement from urban uh, urban educators. Despite hardships and unending US hostility and provocations, DPRK represents a strong socio-economical and political alternative to Western capitalism. DPRK's model keeps evolving year after year. Yes, very true. And good evening to our friend from Turkey. Right. The US has so many homeless, but the DPRK has no homelessness. Homes given way. Could you talk about the new 50,000 flats given away to the people? Yeah, basically, the 8th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea set the goal to build the next, which was held in 2021, I should point out, set the goal of building 10,000 new flats in Pyongyang every year. And of course, the construction work's not just going on in Pyongyang, also in many rural areas. And if you follow KCNA, you will see almost every day, or certainly every second day, a new village is being built in the DPRK, and people are moving into new homes. When I was in the DPRK in April of this year, we saw the new street, Hwasong Street, which is the size of a small city, really, and it looked incredibly modern, bright, new, and and shiny. It looked incredible, and also we could see in the far distance huge tower blocks looming up, and this was another new street under construction, which was finally constructed in May. And also in the south of Pyongyang, we saw another new street. It's incredible. They're building flats at an incredible rate. As you say, they're given to people free of charge. So I mean that's that's an amazing achievement. They're building homes all the time, and it's not easy to do this. And in the West, if you try to build houses in London, it would be phenomenally expensive. And I can just tell you a story very quickly. I mean, years ago, I lived on the Grotty Council estate in northwest London, and there was like a post office and sort of an area of paving outside of it, which was very dilapidated. So they decided to smarten it up, put in new paving, and this came to £300,000, and this was about 25 years ago. So you can imagine the cost of trying to build 50,000 flats in London. It'd be out of this world. Well, yeah, I mean, with the messages, we send the messages on anniversaries of the DPRK as a gesture of solidarity. If it's a DPRK anniversary, we will adopt a message. Well, I mean, to our friend Tiet Lin Wu, please discuss that question with me on Messenger outside of this meeting. Is it mandatory to have portraits of their leaders in homes? As far as I know, not. But everybody, as a mark of respect, and because the single-hearted unity of the DPRK keeps the portrait in their home. Right. Any more questions? I'll just run for another 5 minutes if people have got any more questions. Might be that the internet's a bit slow. What I'll do while I just wait, I'll just put in a link to the video I did on the Squid Game. Right, hope that link will work. I've just dropped it in the chat. Oh, right. Yes, basically, Juche is the reason why the DPRK has self-sufficiency, basic self-sufficiency in agriculture, and you also have the Juche farming method, which stipulates that there should be the right crop in the right soil at the right time. Yes, the DPRK in the UK is a former domestic house in West London, in Ealing. Right. I don't know if that link to the video is working, but that was the video I made about the Squid Game. Right, so I'm just going to also drop a link to my latest book in the chat. We've got to equip ourselves to continue political education, a Juche socialism way of life, especially whose land was stolen by comprador military capitalists in Burma. Okay, yes. Well, we certainly got to study Juche socialism. And of course, Juche can be applied in all countries of the world. And Burma or Myanmar is on and off has had good relations with the DPRK, but it's a complex subject. Right. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Because I will close soon. And as I say, if people have missed this, they can it'll be sort of saved and recorded playback. Well, people stay in the DPRK, embassy staff, foreign embassies in the DPRK have their own accommodation. That's the answer to that. Okay. Well, I'll take one more question and then I think we conclude for the evening because we've been going for about just over an hour. No, DPRK embassies do not usually hire foreigners, as far as I know. Most DPRK embassies tend to be small and only have small numbers of staff anyway, like the one in London. I mean, I'm not sure whether the bigger DPRK embassies in Beijing or Moscow hire foreigners. Right. Okay. Well, I think it's been a very good live stream. Some very interesting questions, and please share the playback video of this as widely as possible. And I hope to be back with another live stream in about maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And in the meantime, we got lots of activities lined up. We're going to have a film night on the 30th of October. I'll be banging out details of that tomorrow. And also, I will be hitting the road and traveling to Liverpool City. And we'll be giving a meeting on the DPRK, obviously for KFA. And that's going to be in the Casa Bar, Hope Street in Liverpool at 7 p.m. on the 7th of November. And we're going to picket the BBC on the 12th of November. And I think it's absolutely vital, as I said before, that obviously, don't expect the non-UK people on this stream to come, but it'd be great if UK-based supporters actually turned up at these events. So, hope to see all of you again on the live stream and maybe see some of you at forthcoming KFA UK events. And yes, you're very welcome, Gregor. Okay, well, it's goodbye from me, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.